1967, huh?
Oh, what a hit on Dunham by Switowski.
I think I made him shit himself.
What up, everyone? DJ Nubis with you on Metal Time Radio podcast with my co-host and good friend Edgar Allan Poet. This is Poetic Carnage.
It's been a while. How we doing?
Doing good, man. Been way too long, but this is the time of year where shit starts to pick up.
It
and
sure
we start
does.
getting our roll on.
To any viewers out here, if you see my right arm kind of off to the side, I have a sick puppy dog, so I'm petting her. We're on medication.
It's his slong. He's just
It's
jerking it
yeah,
way over there.
it jumps off to the far right, and it's 6 feet in the air. It's a gift and a curse, really. No, it's a sick French bulldog who needs attention. But you fuckers need draft coverage, so I can do both.
Yep. Uh, real quickly, did you watch any of March Madness at all?
Yes, I watched Kentucky lose, and then I stopped.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I found myself being a little more interested in the women's with Iowa and Caitlin Clark and that whole thing.
Women's basketball is dope, and I know I've mentioned on the show I covered it when I did journalism in community college, and as a sports editor, I covered a lot of women's basketball because Lady Loggers beat the shit out of people. It's a good product, and I'm glad that there's more eyes on it. And Caitlin Clark is a legend, and Angel Reese is a legend, and those two going up, I hope that they're division rivals or conference rivals and play in the finals because I'm a big fan of both of them.
Yeah, I think that the way things are going, things picking up, that's something that's going to be good for the WNBA going forward.
The tickets. I read that ticket sales in general, like the pre-orders, are up just in general, and that there's a lot of buzz for the WNBA draft. And so that's good. I want there to be more revenue for the players so the players can make more money.
Right.
And I just like sports in general. Fair play to Caitlin Clark for losing to South Carolina. That's an all-time. They lose a game like every 1.5 seasons. They're very good at basketball in South Carolina. So
they got a lot of depth. Like I think I remember Iowa didn't have any bench points. Like that's
it's
sad. You
insane.
can't win games doing that.
And also, let's just be honest. Like the legends in women's basketball, Gino and Pat Summitt, and even though she coached at Tennessee, Pat Summitt's one of my all-time favorites. But
Yep.
Coach Staley is carving out her own piece of legend as well. I mean, she already has, but she's just adding to it. So there's no shame in. I mean, Caitlin Clark basically ran up against the '85 Bears. That she ran up against. Sometimes other teams just.
Yeah, she was like Elway. Clark was just Elway carrying a team to the Super Bowl and then getting their ass kicked.
Belmont. Yeah, then you pull up against the dream team and you're like, oh, I see how this.
That's how it is. Yep.
Yeah, that's what Kentucky used to do to people in the '90s. They just beat the shit out of people. They're like, oh, they just have way better players than us.
Well, it's so funny because so here's the funny thing. I remember because my good friend Chris, his son goes to Purdue, so they were all rooting for the Boilermakers and the males.
Good school.
And of course, they went against UConn, which traditionally is a very good basketball school.
They had almost no bench points too. Ironically, did you notice that?
But I thought it was funny because I was saying to myself before that game that they're probably going to handle it a lot like the way that I remember Kentucky handled Tim Duncan in college.
Yeah,
because it was Childress and Duncan in Wake Forest. And I remember watching the tournament when they were still there and they were playing Kentucky. And at that time, I think Pitino was the coach. And so, like, they just smothered Duncan, like at half court, everything. They just did. They just said, we're going to take him out and you're going to have to beat us somewhere else.
And that's the thing. And that happens in the pros. Like, there's ironically, it being Tim Duncan brought up the quote. There was a finals where I can't remember which team LeBron was on, but people were saying his offense wasn't that great. And they asked Tim Duncan after a game, and they said, no, his offense is great. It's just tough when you get guarded 5 guys on 1. And Jordan went through that, the 3 or 4 years where he made the playoffs of a losing season. It's not to make, first off, there's fewer teams. So that's how you made the postseason. And second off, it was him and a bunch of dudes that are anonymous, right? And so when it's just you, if it's just Elway, if it's just LeBron, if it's just Jordan, if it's just Clark, if it's just whoever, it's really hard to go on an extended run. And
And that's why I thought it was so funny. Like some of these pundits were like saying, "Well, Clark never won a championship." I said, "Yeah, but you put Clark in that South Carolina team. She wins it every year she's there."
You're right. Nick Wright made the point that if you take Clark off of Iowa,
Hmm.
who on Clark's team starts for South Carolina?
Right.
And it's because if you look at the South Carolina stat sheets, there's not too many times a player scoring 25 or 30 points. But if they're all getting 10 rebounds and they're all playing stifling defense and they're getting somewhere between 10 to 15 points each, and they have bench depth, and their coach is absolutely excellent, you just lose to the better fucking team. And quite frankly, we should have figured out that that's how sports work by now.
Right. Yeah.
Because the general manager, they don't just like, I'll give you a different example. I'll give you a different quarterback. Say what you want about Cam Newton, but there were years where he was that offense. And the
Hmm.
GM isn't supposed to be like, all right, so I have this stud all-time talented player who's super productive. Job's done. Out to lunch I go. That's not, they're supposed to get more good players. You're supposed
Yep.
to add to them. Like Peyton Manning threw to Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. Just saying.
Right.
Just saying. So
But we're here
anyone
for the
hating on Clark,
draft.
yeah, we're
And
here
of
for the
course,
draft.
I have taken upon no medal shirt today, but I am mine now general manager of the Broncos at the draft that we're going to be doing. But
Mhm.
I wanted to see, because I hadn't been keeping up with much of the NFL coming to this point. So I wanted to see like how free agency was coming out. And I was really kind of surprised by some of the moves. Some
Mhm.
moves I already knew about, obviously involving Denver and Pittsburgh. Now I'm going to go through each team, and most of them I picked one player that I thought was like the splash. And so I'm going to have Mr. Poet tell me whether or not this player is going to be a difference maker or not.
Sure.
Now there's like 2 or 3 teams where it's more than one, because I'll just put it out to the Texans were like off the chart great offseason.
They did a lot.
So they have a couple of signings that I'm very intrigued with your input on. So
Sure.
before we get to our mock drafts, let's go down the list here a little bit, and we'll just start with the Cardinals. So obviously the first one here involved like a trade with the Falcons, which Desmond Ritter shows up in Arizona. Now, to my knowledge, they still have Murray, correct?
Yes, he's their starter.
Does Desmond ever become the next step, or do you think he's just going to be a backup the rest of his career?
If he does, it's going to be by opportunity or injury, because Kyler Murray is a pretty good quarterback. He may not be the generational all-timer that he looked like he could be early on, but he's pretty good. And he played, I thought, pretty well considering what coming off of that injury, yada yada. So if Ritter does, it looks like something like Murray got hurt or Murray got suspended. Something really went sideways, and he plays well. I think it's a nice backup. I think it's a nice. He's young. He's still kind of developmental. So if something does go wrong with Murray, you put your backup in. You at least don't feel like you're completely wasting your time.
Right, right. The Falcons, they're all in with Kirk Cousins, I guess.
Yeah, they see a weak division. It's an impact. They see a weak division in a weak conference. You have to wonder, okay, is Baker going to be able to do it again?
Hmm.
Carolina, you never know what's going to happen, but they already feel like they're dead in the water. They don't have their number one pick this year. The Saints look like the Saints did last year what the Falcons are doing this year. Obviously, they're looking for a better result, getting the pretty good veteran quarterback.
And
But
that's the thing. Do you think they have kind of like, because really, I mean, Kirk has only like a short window now. So do you think they have what it takes to even get to the playoffs?
yes, because quite frankly, that conference is bad, and that conference really sucks. That's a different rant. That division's really bad.
Right.
I resent it as a Steelers fan playing in the toughest division by far that sent like 3 teams to the playoffs. Meanwhile, there's zero playoff caliber team. I mean, I guess the Bucks won a playoff game, but They're just looking at it from, we have a great running back in Bijan Robinson. We have a great tight end coming off of injury, unfortunately. They have Drake London. They have all these young players that they've drafted. The offensive line could be better, but got to see what this dog is doing. At the end of the day, they have so much talent on offense. They feel like, why not try to push it? Let's sell some tickets. Let's try to remain relevant. And Kirk Cousins, if he comes back from the Achilles, and he's never been like an athletic running quarterback, they have one of the better quarterbacks in the conference still. So, and Kirk Cousins, you can say what you want about him. You can't say that he's a bad quarterback. He's a highly
And they got a
productive,
good running
good
back in
quarterback. They
Robinson.
sure do. They
So
sure
they're
do.
pretty good there. Speaking of running backs, the Ravens picked up Derrick Henry, which is a great sign, but I saw they also had some losses. So how do you think that's going to
They're hoping. First off, I think it was a reactionary signing. I think that after that Chiefs game, they sat
got them a
back
little
and
worried?
I think they sat back and said, "Why didn't we run the ball? What in the hell were we doing?" I feel like this is more of about a statement than, I mean, Derrick Henry is a Hall of Famer. Derrick Henry is an all-timer. Derrick Henry is beloved by the fans. He's also ancient, and he has a ton of wear and tear. And
Yep.
last year, the offensive coordinator wasn't great, and his production spiked up. Overall, his stats were pretty good. I think that he is. I'll put it this way: if I was drafting him in fantasy football, I would be really looking forward to having him for the first half of the season and not having
Right.
him for the second half of the season. Maybe he misses some games here or there. If you told me that he lasts the entire season, doesn't get hurt, I will tell you that he had a heck of a year. It's more of a, I'd like to see them have a second back to take the load off and be able to take him into the playoffs and say, you're getting the ball 20 to 30 times a game, and there's no load management, so to speak, here. So I'll give it a potential impact grade. I'm not saying I ever want to play against that man. That's King Henry, God damn it. We respect him in this dojo. But you can't ignore certain facts. Now, look, if he goes out there, I will say this for them: if there was ever a running back to pull an Adrian Peterson and defy father time a little bit, it feels like he would be the one. But they've lost some offensive linemen. I don't know about the
Yeah.
running back depth. I'm pretty sure they can get some running back depth, but it wasn't. I feel like the name, like if this happened 3 years ago, I'd be horrified.
Right. Yeah.
But on the other hand, it does feel like Derrick Henry wearing a Ravens jersey makes all, like, it just feels right. It looks right, So I can't hate on it, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a move as it was a headline.
So it might be a little too much or too little too late.
Also,
Basically.
paying the amount of money they gave him wasn't awful, but it was kind of pricey.
Yeah.
So I can't. If I was a Ravens fan, I could see the upside in it. I could convince myself to be excited, but I'm not a Ravens fan, so I'm not squinting at it to try to make a little more sense.
Well, the Bills didn't make a lot of splashes, so the only name that I thought was a little
They cut
interesting.
everybody and
Yeah.
traded everybody.
Curtis Samuel, the receiver. Does he make an impact with Josh Allen? Is he enough to help
You
that
know
team?
what? He's actually, if you watch him play, he's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask yourself, all right, there's no Diggs. They have Knox, they have Kincaid, they have Shakur, I think is that guy's last name. He was a rookie. I thought he was pretty good as well. So there's a lot of passes to be caught that weren't there earlier. I think it might be a sneaky good signing, but like it's going to be like, wow, you got a nice value for a guy who is actually really a pretty good number 3 or solid number 2. I will say I'm glad they did not trap themselves into trying to overpay Gabriel Davis. I think he's a Jaguar now, I believe. And Jacksonville just threw money at him for no reason. People need to understand that the Gabriel Davis you saw in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, that was a moment. That's great, one of the greatest playoff game performances you'll ever see, but he's good for 2 or 3 games a year. And quite frankly,
So Curtis is
I-
probably more consistent.
I would rather, yeah, he's going to be more consistent, and also I think as much as I criticize some of the things that Buffalo does on offense, they put their wideouts in a position to succeed. I've always thought that, which is why I always was. I thought Stephon Diggs was great, but I never thought he was. I thought he was a top 5 guy. I never thought he was a top 1 to 3 guy. I never. Obviously, it's kind of the inverse of that for Gabe Davis. I thought that the speed and the situation made for a better player than what he actually made him look like a better player than what he was. I think Curtis Samuel would be a pretty dang good signing, but it's not needle moving.
The Panthers, the more notable name that I looked at was Robert Hunt, the offensive guard.
Doesn't matter. If he played tackle, I'd be more excited. We'll never get to know how good Bryce Young actually is. That is my answer. I'm sure Robert Hunt. There's nothing against Robert Hunt, but he is a guard. All right,
Right.
you can only make so much of an impact at guard.
Do you think it's a start though? Because I mean, I would
Yes.
hope.
Yes.
I hope the Panthers are going to try to like build that line a little bit.
You have to start somewhere. No, that is a fair point. You have to start somewhere. Having one competent guy on the offensive line when you have 0 is a lot better. I think that Carolina, and it's kind of like making lemonade out of lemons. This is a really deep offensive tackle class, right?
Right.
So there are some tackles. We've both bemoaned how bad offensive line play is in college and how it impacts guys in the pros. So there are some guys who normally would be a first rounder who aren't going to be a first rounder this year because there's so many really, really talented guys. So they might be able to grab someone in the second round. Now, if I'm Bryce Young, I'd be like, I sure would like a first round pick so you could get one of those awesome tackles. But to your point, that and Hunt makes a start. I'll also give you credit. I don't think too many people actually cared about that signing, so kudos to you for picking it out. Because Hunt he's a good player.
Well, yeah, and I just, I was looking at some of the few games that, at least moments that I saw Bryce Young play, and dude was just running for his life. So I'm like, you have to do something somewhere.
He's small, and if you're small and playing on the worst offensive line, sorry, now my dog is on the floor and spinning around. So I am paying attention, chat, and I swear to you, I'm not overdosing.
He's spinning around too.
Yeah. Sugar, come here. Hey.
All right. So the Bears, like this one was a little interesting because until I looked at who the Eagles got, which we'll get to later, but DeAndre Swift, running back.
Love it. Give that man the fucking ball. The Eagles, one of the reasons their offensive line or their offensive game went off track was their offensive coordinator fell in love with putting Maxwell in and having him block. So Maxwell blocking was not as productive as a dump off pass to Swift. And I can prove it or delayed handoff to Swift, because they did one of those things which worked in the early year. And then they did the other thing in the middle and late year when their offense sucked. And one of them resulted in points and the other one didn't. So DeAndre Swift, really good player. Not saying he's like a top 5 running back. I am saying he is a great option for a young quarterback. It's going to be Caleb Williams to have. Love it.
So
Impact.
the Bengals, I think this is a re-signing for T. Higgins, the receiver.
Did they tag him or did they actually get him a new deal?
I'm pretty sure he got re-signed because I think I saw there was a price that they paid him. I just don't remember what it was.
Oh, he did.
It could have been
he signed a 4-year.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah.
I should have put the prices next time, but I didn't write those down. I just put their names.
Oh, I just pulled up an article from yesterday.
But I'm assuming they still have Jamar Chase, so
they do. So this is saying that they haven't signed him. I'm not sure.
I think I was looking at it's either CBS or NFL Tracker. I think that's what I was looking at.
Okay. If he is a guy, so here's the thing. The talent is quite good. Okay. He's never had a 10 touchdown season. He's never hit 1,200 yards. Some of those years he's with Jamar Chase. Okay. And so it's hard to have guys hit that type. Two guys hit crazy production.
Right.
The
For a while,
early
is Tyler Boyd still there?
he's a free agent. And so at one point
Because
it was
that
him
was
and
kind of like
Boyd.
a triple-headed
Yeah,
nightmare there, but
it Jesus, yeah. One of my criticisms of one of my few criticisms of Burrow, sometimes I thought he should have got Boyd the ball more, but when Chase got hurt, and when Burrow got hurt, I started Boyd some games in fantasy and it worked out because if you have a bad quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback, they love them some slot play.
Mhm.
Because it's just easy stuff. T. Higgins, I don't think he is I think he would be a solid number one. I don't think he's a superstar number one. So if they get him a contract, they're keeping the best 1-2 wide receiver tandem in football with respect to AJ Brown, and his
Right.
running mate, with respect to Hill and his running mate. Chase is about as good as any wide receiver. He's as good as any wide receiver in football, not named Justin Jefferson. And
Right.
I know people will give me flack for this. I would still take Jamar over Tyreek. Maybe the tiebreaker is that one guy is a lot more likely to get suspended than the other. Here's the thing. One of them is a horrible human being, the other one just talks a little bit too much trash. But T. Higgins is a really good player. And if you can't get the offensive line right, and they can't for whatever reason, the way you can circumvent that is just punishing the defense when they don't get there. So I think that Higgins, if he was a number one with a competent quarterback, his stat line probably looks like 90 catches, 11 to 1,300 yards, depending on offense and other weapons, and about 7 to maybe 10 touchdowns. For whatever reason, he's just not a big touchdown guy, which is crazy because he's huge. Maybe that's been, but his rookie year, there was like the last hurrah with Andy Dalton, and they were bad, and that's how they got that number one pick, I believe. So
Yeah.
I believe in his production contextually, and I believe in his upside. So I would say impact if and when they get him signed.
Now the Browns, they were kind of busy too. However, most of theirs is kind of mid. But one guy that you went to bat for a lot, former Bronco Jerry Judy,
Judy.
wide
Don't know
receiver.
why they extended him. You gotta make him prove it on the field for you. If you go back and you watch
Well, the
this tape,
Browns never do anything that makes sense. So
no, they don't. They don't. They're the gift that keeps on giving. He was open a lot with Russ as his quarterback. That is a fact. You can see it on film. It is an
yeah.
unmitigated fact. But he had some effort issues and he had some silly drops, and he is sometimes a bit of a silly player.
Do you think
But
he just gets deflated though when like
oh
so if
yeah,
your quarterback you think it's just a matter he just kind of quits? He's like, dude, this
I
sucks. I'm not gonna put
I
in the
think
effort.
he is the reason why leadership matters in NFL. He is the reason why you need a quarterback with a strong grip on reality, with a strong locker room presence to rein him back in. On the
Hmm.
flip side of that, we've also seen him get super passionate and get hyper competitive because he does hate losing. So that
Yeah.
is, these guys are human beings. Um, I'm gonna say impact because Chubb is coming back. You don't know what you're gonna get from him, right? Amari Cooper is a year older and he is still the king of 2 or 3 big games equals his stat sheet. So there's going to be opportunities. Also, let's just be honest. Deshaun Watson sucks and he needs a security blanket. They do have Njoku, who's a really good tight end as well. But having one out of the slot will help. Again, if you're a struggling quarterback, good slot play can really, really save you. I'm going to say impact, but I'm not saying it with my whole chest. I'm not saying it with a heart full of conviction. I would have felt better if they didn't give him the contract and he had to go out there and earn it.
Well, they might be in luck if Deshaun sucks. They have Jameis Winston backing him up. So the
That is
interception machine.
yeah. Which Winston are you going to get? Right? Like
Right. Yeah.
it's. I will say this though for Winston, he has grown up a lot. He's beloved in every locker room that he's in.
Yeah, he seems to be a good class guy. So I mean, look, if the guy's going to rebuild his career, I mean, this is the opportunity because Deshaun, I think he's easy to beat if you're going to do that.
Yeah,
So
I think so. The other thing I'll say for him too is It does. We could have a whole podcast on the off the field stuff, and some of the off the field stuff and the allegations are kind of frightening with famous
Yeah.
Jameis. So I'm not speaking to that. I'm just talking about football character. When he handed the ball off to the running back to get him a touchdown at the end of the game, and basically told his coach to F off.
Yeah.
I thought, I was like, oh God, this might really hurt his career, until I
That was a
found out
varsity blues moment.
that everybody on the offense was like, no, this is our guy. He needs a touchdown. We're at the 1 yard line. Like yada yada. You can cut it both ways, but it also wasn't a good sign for that head coach. Quite frankly, that they're going to be insubordinate. But it does speak to how he's viewed by those guys, and maybe somebody who's viewed that way by those guys can keep Judy in line. I don't know.
And
This is a huge
I'll say this about that, because this is something I didn't think about till now.
Yeah.
If you go back to when McDaniels came to Denver,
Yeah.
and the whole thing with Cutler, and I remember Cutler getting butt hurt and wanting out of Denver and going to Chicago and everything. I said to myself, Jay was so upset with McDaniels, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, Jay, you've been there with Shanahan. The team is yours. You are the quarterback. All you had to do is believe in your players. Like, fuck what McDaniels wants. The players are on your side. So I think that's kind of cool in some ways. I don't remember how I initially responded to Jameis doing that, but in hindsight, I'm kind of like, you know what? It makes sense, because you rather have the respect of the guys that play with you than some coach that may not be there the following year anyway.
Well, especially if you're a quarterback. I mean, there's so many. Last season showed us how important a backup quarterback is. And obviously, I know you like to make jokes about the interception stuff, but he's obviously, this is a league where Case Keenum still has a job. So,
Right.
so Winston
That's
is good
true.
enough. So Winston is good enough. And especially if, so I'm a big Stefanski guy, right? I think he's an excellent head coach. I was hoping they were going to fire him during some of the Baker years, because no, they've not had a competent head coach before. I don't like this. Please fuck this up. I think if you have a good quarterback, I can hear myself in the background.
You sure it's you and not my cat upstairs?
I can hear.
I'll turn it down a little bit.
If you have a good offensive guy, you have to feel like you can get something out of that talent, like Peyton did.
Yeah. Let's see, the Cowboys. The only notable that I saw was Eric Kendricks, the linebacker.
Yeah, I like who they let go, but for Kendricks, no, not an impact. I mean, he's a solid player, but I've never heard of offensive coordinator be like, oh God, no, not Kendricks. I mean, most guys aren't that good.
Yeah, I think he's kind of past his prime too. I think so.
Yeah, he's got some value.
Yeah. So the Broncos, we didn't make any real splashes. Hopefully in the draft we do, but I did think re-signing Adam Troutman at tight end might have been a plus. I really did like his big time play in the Browns game. That was huge for us. How do you feel about that re-signing?
It's a sign that made sense. It's kind of like what I was talking about with Kendricks. Not every person you sign has to be some game-changing Super Bowl caliber, legend type guy.
Yeah.
Also, you've had such bad luck at injury at that position that you need some familiar faces. Maybe he gets a little bit more involved in the passing game. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. We have to figure out how it goes. Once I get to the draft, will be a little bit more interesting. But all right, for the Lions, they looked really great last year, but the one standout that I would say, at least the one they paid some money to, is Graham Glasgow, the guard.
Say impact. He's a good player. They had to pay him a lot.
Kind of like Def, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player. You want to protect Goff, and you know that Goff isn't great against the blitz. He's not great against pressure, so you want to keep the inside of the line fortified.
Right.
What I will say for them is they have the tackles, so I don't mind them investing on, and I think I don't know if Sewell is still on his rookie contract, but when you have the tackles, and you have a quarterback like Goff, you want that. I mean, you want a good line in general. So I'm going to say impact, but barely.
Okay. I didn't know about this one, but this has to be at least a good pack for the Packers with Love and them is Josh Jacobs at running back.
Yeah, I'm going to say impact. He was obviously like his best year in Oakland and Vegas, I guess, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're still losers. It's still a bunch of fucking losers.
Loser.
Still a bunch of losers. Although I do like their decision to keep their head coach Pierce. That made sense. I don't think he was like 1,600 yards or whatever it was, lead the league in rushing good. But I know last year he didn't all of a sudden become a shitty running back. And
I think he got hurt, didn't he? At
he
some
got
point?
he came in. Well, they fucked him on his contract. They played contract games with him, and so he did what players oftentimes do and said, "Fuck you, I'll show up when I want to."
Self-interest, yep.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's a business for both sides, right? And so between that and having Jimmy Garoppolo and a bad offensive line, and McDaniels, who was just one of the worst head coaches in NFL history, and LOL for fucking signing him again. What a fucking hack. Things are not really suited to help him. And the Packers are a really, really smart organization. And they let I think it was Dylan, they let one of their guys go because they wanted to restructure his contract, and he said no. So for about the same money, if memory serves, they got a better, more talented player. And quite frankly, I think they're going to give him the ball a lot. I think that one of the reasons they did the split back stuff was because neither Dylan or the other gentleman whose name escapes me at the moment, they were good, but they weren't great. Yeah, I think so.
That's the thing. Josh can be like your primary carrier, which is great. That's a big thing for them because you're right. That's the same problem that I think the Bengals run into and some of these other teams. They just don't have the go-to guy to carry like a majority of the load.
And the Bengals at one point they felt like Mixon was, and then he became more of a pass catching guy, which is why I don't understand why the Texans gave him that contract. But that might be a name that gets brought up later. A 1-year deal would have made sense. A 2 with an option or something, sure. But but for Jacobs, I think Jacobs is a really good player. Sometimes he's great. He definitely is a highly talented guy. And if you put him, you give him a guy like Love, I think Love's going to be pretty good. And they have a million good wide receivers. It's the Green Bay offense is actually horrifying. And Jacobs is going to be really good there. And I'm happy for him because he doesn't have to play in shitty Oakland anymore.
Right? Yeah, he's not going to waste.
Imagine going from Saban's Alabama, a structured place where you win games and you're not silly, to Oakland. You're just like walking around going, what the fuck is this shit? What is this Mickey Mouse bullshit? So I'm happy for him.
Speaking of the Texans, they had a great offseason. There's 3 players I'm going to mention, and I'm just going to curious. You might think they're all going to be impact, or you might just think one. Tell me who's the best. Joe Mixon, running back, Jeff Okudah, the corner, and Danielle Hunter, the defensive end.
Hunter. So Hunter had some injury issues, and I'm glad that he's healthy again because he's a very good player. Okudah, I'm rooting for Jeff. He was looked at as one of the best corner talents coming out of the draft in a while, and that's saying something because there's some like last year.
He was a Buckeye, right?
Yeah. And I feel like he was cursed because this wasn't good Detroit that drafted him. It was bad Detroit.
Right.
And they did the thing. They pulled it. They were like the Titans before the Titans. So you remember when I made fun of the Titans for trading AJ Brown just for a draft pick to draft a wide receiver who's not as talented or as awesome as AJ Brown? Well, the Lions traded Darius Slay to draft Okudah. I think he went 3. And his rookie year, he wasn't great, and he got hurt, and he kept getting injured, and it was hard for him to really just stay on the field. I believe the talent is still there, and I know from having watched him in college and, viewed him as a collegiate player that the preparation was good. It wasn't an intangibles thing. Sometimes you just get snake bitten. So I'm really rooting for Jeff. The Joe Mixon thing, the contract is fucking horrible. It doesn't make any sense. If they had to give him that to get him because they're all in this year, I understand it. They have a good cap situation because they don't have to pay a quarterback. And they can't pay. They can't pay Stroud right now. I don't believe they could under the CBA offer him a new contract if they wanted to anyway.
Did they pay him more than Baltimore paid Henry?
I know Henry got a 2-year deal and he got a 3-year deal. So I'm gonna say I think his deal was 3 years for 28. Here, let me look it up. Now I don't know how it's structured. Maybe it's easy to get out of.
Right.
But it didn't. It's a 3-year, $27 million, reportedly including $13 million in guarantees. That was after the Texans traded for him.
Okay.
So it maybe they know something we don't. Maybe I did think that Cincinnati could have ran him a little
Well,
bit
they
more.
have they still have Pierce, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough. I think the signing, if just the player, I think makes a lot of sense.
It's probably just a bit much for a guy that's not going to be your primary carrier. That's the only problem.
Yeah, he's about to be on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
But sometimes you feel like it's just the price of poker and you want to get your guy. And I understand that.
Colts, the only one I thought was even remotely, I think it's a resign, I'm not sure, but Michael Pittman, the receiver.
They had to pay him because he was so excellent for them last season. They probably overpaid him, but it's a wide receivers market right now.
Yeah.
You also want to keep a guy like that who's a proven commodity for your quarterback who's basically a rookie next year all over again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, first off, he's an impact player just in general. And the value that he has to the Colts is more than he'd have for just about any other team. So I'm going to say impact. I was going to say a good signing.
Jaguars, we brought this up earlier with the Bills. Gabe Davis, receiver.
They're such a poverty franchise. No impact. F- signing. Makes no sense. Makes zero sense. Makes zero
Chiefs,
sense.
Not a whole lot going on, but this is kind of important, even though he's getting older. Chris Jones, defensive line.
Impact. They overpaid him. They gave him too much money for too long, but they're trying to make history. He's still a top 5 defensive player in the league. He should continue to be that for this season. And then you can just deal with the decline because you're chasing history and you're trying to win 3 in a row. It is what it is. I don't blame them.
Right. The Raiders, the only one I thought was remotely interesting was Minshew at quarterback. Although I will say this, I read an article today, Mr. Brady saying he would consider coming back, and the two teams that were brought up were the Patriots and the Raiders.
If he goes back to the Patriots, I'm going to laugh really hard. If he goes back to the Raiders, it's going to be hilarious because they're trying to make a playoff push. I don't think it would work particularly well either way.
Especially without Jacobs, like I don't know where they're really going to go from there unless they're going to go draft a running back this year.
Yeah. I'll say this for Minshew. He is just good enough to be a starter. I can't say impact though. I can't because he is. You know how I feel about quarterback.
Are they going
efficiency.
with the guy from last year as their starter? Do you know?
No, O'Connell's their backup.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Chargers, Gus Edwards. And this only concerns me for a couple of reasons. One, Eckler's gone, and then two, Edwards spends a lot of time on injured reserve. So, like, for me personally, I think that's not like the greatest sign. But then again, they don't have anybody else unless they're going to draft. So
they sure don't. There's a ton of running backs. I think that I'm going to say impact with the caveat of it's going to be running back committee or he's going to be depth. If you're telling me that that's their number one and they're riding with him, I'll tell you this: he is a good back, and he's had some health issues. I think he's had some bad luck too. If you told me that he was going to play all 17 games as the starter, I would say, well, I'm happy for him, impact, but I don't, I'm going to say impact as a depth piece, nice piece, complimentary piece.
The Rams, Colby Parkinson, tight end. Nope.
No impact. No.
No bueno.
No. Watch
This one I
McVay
thought
make
was
me look like
very
an asshole.
interesting. The Dolphins, Shaq Barrett, defensive end.
No. Um, he's he had that crazy burst of production for a while. He's still solid. He's still pretty good, but they lost so many defensive pieces, especially that defensive tackle that I believe he actually went to the Christian Wilkins, I think his name was. He's one of the
Yeah,
best defensive tackles. I think he went to Vegas. So I don't know.
they still got Chubb, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he's playing next year. He's gonna miss a huge chunk of it because of the Achilles. Him and
Mhm.
Phillips tore his Achilles.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what really killed their defense because they were set up to score a bunch of points and have 2 pass rushers, which ain't a
Yeah.
bad way to play football. So it's less about Shaq and more about like if you're the only pass rusher they have and you're not like TJ Watt, Von Miller level is good. Sometimes they can just say, "We'll W all game. You don't get to play." You know. So I'm going to say no impact. Respectfully, no impact.
The Vikings, Jonathan Greener, defensive end.
How many sacks did he have last year? Do you remember off the
I
top?
don't know. I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, do that for me.
All right. I did notice that Barrett had a low amount of sacks too, because he's been kind of going on the down end. But
Yeah.
let's see. Last year, 12 sacks, 12.5 sacks.
And he played for the Texans last year, right? Didn't they basically swap him? Or
Um,
yeah, I thought he did. I could be wrong.
he's on Minnesota now, so let's see. I want to say he probably was. Yeah, he was a Texan. Yep.
I'm gonna say impact because he's pretty damn good. I'm presuming that the coordinator knows how to use him and the scheme suits and all that. Like I'm presuming competency around him. I will say impact. He's a good player.
Patriots, Antonio Gibson, running back.
No, we're done. We're not dignifying that. We're done. He's a nice player, but he's playing on the Patriots offense and he's behind Stevenson. Next, let's talk about real teams.
The Saints, 2 players. One just got signed today, I believe. But the first one's Chase Young, a defensive end. Second one is I can't ever pronounce his first name, but St. Brown, a wide receiver out of Detroit.
Equanimous St. Brown.
Yes.
So I'm
Yep.
going to say impact for him because he's a really nice player, and I feel like he hasn't always had
Do you think
as
that
much
hurts the
opportunity.
Lions? Because he was a big player for them
They
last
have
year.
yeah, that's interesting. Wait, Equanimous? No, he was the Bear. They're the St. Brown brothers.
Right.
So the Chicago St. Brown, I think he's pretty good. I think that he is going to have 800, 900 yards, 6-ish touchdowns. Yeah, I think he's going to kind of be like Juju Smith-Schuster was for my Steelers. So I'm going to say impact. Chase Young, absolutely not. I read a couple weeks ago he needs another neck surgery.
Yeah, he fell off when he got to the Niners last year. He was going to be like this big impact to help them push the
He had
final
spurts,
play.
but he's
Yeah,
always hurt. He has some attitude issues, allegedly. I haven't seen enough until I see something concrete or I've read it enough
it's not
from avowed
verified.
sources. Yeah, exactly. I'm just not going to believe it. I think it's easy for people just to say, "Oh, he's this or he's that." I tend to be more cautious on accusations. Yeah, no, Chase. If Chase Young is magically healthy again, then yes. But no, I think that he is a really talented guy who could have been really, really great. He was awesome for a brief moment in time. It's no disrespect to him. It's just it's bad luck, man. Like you know how it is.
Quick thing on the Saints. Do you think they have buyer's remorse for a car?
Yes, I do.
So
I
do you
think
think they're going to try to go for a quarterback in this draft, or
they are one of the teams I wouldn't be shocked to see them trade up, especially because on one hand you're hearing people saying McCarthy could go as high as 2. On other hands, I'm also hearing that he could drop or Drake May could drop, and how teams view a Penix or a Bo Nix, for instance. is also interesting. So I could see
I
them do
actually
that.
saw a mock where they had May ranked second. Like, I think that's a bit high, but
Well, he's a lot of people view him as a prototypical quarterback. I view him as like a better version of Mitch Trubisky, but I think it'll be better than Mitch. Not that that's that
well,
difficult.
you'd hope so.
Yeah, and it's no disrespect to Trubisky. I mean, he did absolutely molest my fucking offense last year and made them look awful. But the point is that they went for Derek Carr because, again, horrible division, weak conference, great defense. If Carr hit, they're a Super Bowl contender. So sometimes when you have a small window, because they're about to be in salary cap hell again,
Yeah.
you feel like you have to do these sorts of things. And I understood why they did it. I just, on a brief tangent, I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. Sometimes you just need to draft the fucking quarterback. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. Like last year, we were both talking about Anthony Richardson, and it's like, okay, we know what the flaws and pitfalls could be, but you're perennially getting your ass kicked with old quarterbacks who can't play anymore. So take the guy who could be good, then get him a coach and some weapons. And so what if he's not
That's
a
really what it comes
perfect
down
player?
to, because when you have so many, like this year, there's still plenty of quarterbacks in this draft, and it's like, even if you don't get the guy you want, like, just take a chance because you may strike gold. I mean, dude, nobody knew Patrick Mahomes would be what he was except for the
Exactly.
Chiefs. They fucking knew it, but
Well, Sean Payton, he tried to trade up for him too. So you have Andy Reid and Sean Payton who are like, who's awesome? That guy. And
yeah,
and
so I
and
mean, you just never know, man. Like,
yeah,
I remember when Big Ben, he came out of the Miami, Ohio,
yep.
and I just remember saying, "Who the fuck is this dude?" But then he ended up doing his career, and I'm like,
And then you learn, but here's the thing too. You're not saying just okay. Some people are saying he's a first rounder. You think he doesn't have it? Just draft him. We're not saying pull a pack. No offense, but a Paxton
right, yeah,
Lynch
no
type
Tim
moment.
Tebow's here. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
don't
think
just
he's
grab somebody to grab him. But if you look at him, you could be like, you know what? I think there's something there. Just because you didn't get, like, everybody wants Caleb Williams, right? Okay, but
yeah.
one team is going to get him. So you can either keep kicking the can down the road, or you can go get the quarterback, know in 2 years, and then go for it. This isn't the 80s. It's not the 90s. It's not even the early 2000s. You can't game manage yourself. If you game manage yourself to a Super Bowl, you have one of the greatest defenses of all time, and
Yeah.
some luck. And that is not a very sustainable model, because with respect to the no-fly zone, the greatest secondary I've ever seen, and then the other greatest secondary maybe of all time as well, with the Legion of Boom, they have 2 Super Bowls. They both only won one. Only won one, but
It was
it is
worth it
what
for
it
the
is.
time,
Yeah, it's worth it for the time, but then you're left with what it is. They had Russ to fall back on, and yada yada yada. But the point is that, like, just draft the fucking quarterback. Like, seriously. Like, okay, the Titans drafted Malik Willis and it didn't work out. And then they drafted Levis. Okay.
Mhm.
So you could do that, or you could do the Indianapolis Colts, where you're like, we'll have Phillip Rivers, we'll have Nick Foles, we'll have the janitor, we'll draft a fan. It's like, no, just draft the quarterback, and they did. So at the end of the day, just draft the quarterback, put him in position to succeed, and roll with it. Don't draft a Zach Wilson off of one throw, though. Jesus fucking Christ.
Speaking of a team that's kind of looking for a quarterback to take the reins, the Giants got Drew Lock out of Seattle.
I'm trying to be a better man, so I don't want to ride on Drew Lock. I will say this. For Drew Lock. I would rather start Drew Lock than Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd agree, actually.
I don't know when they gave the reason why Saquon deserved to be mad last year is that he watched his money go to Daniel Jones. And it's
Yeah.
just like, that's not why we were winning football games. So I wish I could say impact. I wish, but I can't because Drew Lock is Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Best of luck to him.
The Jets, Javon Kinlaw, defensive line.
I'm gonna say impact. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, I agree. The Eagles actually had 3 players because they've been busy this offseason.
Yeah.
First one, of course, is Saquon Barkley. We just talked about running back.
Impact. They paid him too much. I'm happy. They paid him too much because he's a running back, but somebody was probably going to pay him. Saquon is a top 3 running back when healthy. That's the big caveat. I'm going to
You're right.
presume health. I tend to be very more health and optimistic, positive, especially we're lighter on guys also coming out of the draft and stuff because we see the potential. We also just try not to bury people because we're pessimists. So I'm going to say impact. I mean, he's a stud. Maybe their offensive coordinator will give him the ball more than 7 times.
Well, do you think that's why they kind of like let Swift go, because Swift really isn't kind of like your bruiser guy. He's more like a speedster. So Saquon can be kind of that bruiser guy you want.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I think the issue is that with their offense, you can just spread them out and you don't need the bruiser. Swift could also run between the tackles anyway because he's, Swift and really talented. I get it. I'm not saying that I would ever take DeAndre Swift over Saquon Barkley. Saquon is a monster. Impact, because at the end of the day, Saquon.
Yeah.
Respect to Saquon.
Second player I had on there was Albert Aguinobonum, the tight end that used to be in Denver. I kind of liked some of the stuff he did in Denver. He didn't really have a lot of opportunity to shine, but I can't think of a tight end right now they have that would really stand out. They did have for a long time some good tight ends, but
they did. They have some. Hold on, Eagles. He got hurt last year and it hurt them.
What the fuck is his name?
He has Eagles roster. I cannot remember his name. I say it. I'm pulling up their depth chart from last season.
Me too. I'm trying to see it. Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, okay. Goedert is good, but he's not much of a blocker. Impact is a high thing for Albert O. Albert O is a legitimate NFL player, but I can't say impact. I like the signing though.
Yeah. So the third player is Mr. Kenny Pickett at quarterback. Does he have a chance at all to either one?
No. No. Kenny, I liked him coming out of the draft, and I thought he had intangibles.
I like that kid so much, but
he just was not a good quarterback, and he has 0 intangibles.
Plus, he pouted. I didn't like that.
He became a, what do I call players who do that? It's a famous quote on the board. It's a pouty hoe.
Bitch boy.
He is. I go with pouty hoe. Bitch boy is also a classic. I like. Truth be told, I understood the whole "you're the starter and then you're not" thing.
Yeah,
he has a gripe there. Be that as it may, Kenny,
you have to show it. You have to prove that you can be the starter.
And he didn't. He sucked. He would play a horrible game, take horrible sacks, throw bad picks, and then catch fire at the end of the game. He was like Tebow in that regard.
Yeah.
Although he is, unlike Tebow, not the son of God. However, but there could only be one. Big T. We all hail Big T. Look, man, I was surprised we got a 3rd rounder for him. I was shocked, to be quite frank.
Well, I think the way the Eagles look at it, it's kind of like, even if Kenny ends up being like a backup the rest of his career, like
he's competent. I mean,
that's all you need really is competency.
He's competent. He's got some upside. They might, I think for me, it was just, he says that he did not refuse to go in and be the second quarterback behind Rudolph towards the end of the year.
Right.
2 different reporters with ins with the Steelers, okay, said otherwise. That's not counting the reporter who made the initial report. So with respect to Kenny, it is hard to believe him there. With the subsequent behavior after the fact, he doesn't have I can't scientifically prove it, but it does look like he got really pouty. And later, like, I'd rather have Justin Fields. And for what we're paying Russ, if it doesn't work, we'll play Justin Fields. And let's be honest, Chicago, there are various reports out there that they misread the market and they thought that they could get more. At one point, at one point they could have got a second. They held out for more. Then the market reset. Then I read that they could have got a third. They held out for more, and they just the GM, who's done a pretty good job, misread the market to my team's benefit. So I'm pretty happy with that. Hey, I didn't do it. I didn't want Russ either.
I didn't do it, but I'll take it.
Listen, I didn't want Russ either. You know how I feel about Russ. That's a whole different.
Well,
thing.
speaking
But
of the Steelers, there's 3 players to see who the impacts are. The first one, I'm very surprised because I did not think Baltimore let him go, and this is like a huge deal. Patrick Queen, the
impact,
linebacker,
I'm going to say
Russell
impact.
Wilson, quarterback, and then of course Justin Fields, the other
Fields.
quarterback.
So here's the thing with Queen. He was kind of in no man's land, like pretty good but not great until Roquan took over some duties for him. So I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last season, just to be honest. However, if you looked at what he was estimated to get at the start of free agency, it was about 5 million more per year. Some of the estimates were more than what he actually got. So for his price, and because I just believe that Tomlin knows how to use defensive players, I think he's going to be pretty good. And seeing how we went through 7 interior linebackers last year is just a position we got beat up on.
And I
It's
think
going
that's
to be
the thing because
impactful.
I think back to the early 2000s, the Ravens when they had Ray Lewis there in the middle. You
Yeah,
had guys like Darren Sharper there that were not great on their own, but great as part of the team. So you still have your boy there as well. Then
Minka,
like
yeah.
so Queen's going to be like a good part of that chemistry, I think, within that
He
structure.
he definitely played well enough to get that contract. And part of the reasons why we said he was struggling before, it wasn't that he was bad, it was that but coming out of college, Patrick Queen was expected to be the best interior linebacker in football quickly, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm still going to say impact. Russell, I'm going to be honest with you, no impact. I think he's going to start. I don't think he's going to keep the job throughout the season, and it's going to Justin Fields. With Justin Fields, I don't know how good he is. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been a Justin Fields guy since day one. He's on a whole new team. He's had a million different head coaches and many different offensive coordinators. There's a world in which he was a stud since day one. There's a world in which he was a bust. There's a world in which he, just different ways it could have panned out. There's a world in which he could have been good, but he's just gone through too much. I don't know. This is what I do know, though. They asked him where he wanted to go. He picked Pittsburgh. A lot of players believe in Mike Tomlin. A lot of people believe in the stability. The Bears, a Bears fan put it like this. They finished the rebuild by the time they got finished with Fields. So I'm going to be optimistic and say impact, and I'm going to be slightly homerish because I love my Steelers and I also love Justin Fields. But I cannot, it's not like, with Daniel Hunter. It's like, other than injuries, we know that man, that's a bad man. Fields doesn't have that track record, but I'm going to say impact because fuck it.
The only thing I'm going to say about this is I hope Russell Wilson stinks it up because if he succeeds, then it just makes us look like bigger dicks.
If he goes back to old Russ, and I don't think he can because physically he's not old Russ, it would be. I mean, to your point though, here's one thing. He asked the Steelers for 2 years. He said, "I want a 2-year contract," and they said, "Nah." So, I didn't read a report saying that he asked the Giants for one. I know he met with them, but he wasn't getting a 2-year contract, and quite frankly, he hasn't earned it. Like,
yeah,
they need to
well,
see.
I mean,
At this point in his career,
right, because
he's a Hall of Famer.
Despite what Denver paid you and everything, and whether or not you think the rest of the team is more to blame than Russ, the reality is his stats are not as great as they look.
Yeah, no, his play was never on par with his stats, and you could easily look at that and be like, I think that was more Sean Payton magic and conservative Russ play because he didn't pull the trigger as much as he did in years past because he was protecting his stats and he played a very hesitant brand of ball. He threw a lot of passes that could have been picked. He made a lot of plays where he didn't run and he should have, and then he ran when he shouldn't have. He did a lot of things wrong. He still can't hit the middle of the field. So when people are like, "Yeah, him and Freiermuth are going to be awesome," I'm like, probably not. It'd be great, but
well, the other thing is, like you said, Justin Fields coming to a great situation. It's probably the best situation he could possibly be in. And I'm actually kind of actively rooting for this kid, even though I love Stroud way more than Fields coming out of Ohio State. But just judging by what I saw in Chicago, it's like this kid deserves like a new start and a better chance. And so you guys got to steal.
And here's the other thing too. There are some people, and this is not a serious take, and I don't pay it any mind. I actually kind of regret that I'm going to mention it, but there are some people who hate Fields so much they think that he doesn't even deserve, that he won't even be a viable backup. And again, this is a league where Case Keenum is still playing, and that guy is horrible. Trevor Siemian is still in the league, and that guy is horrible. Sage Rosenfeld, I think he's still in the league. It's like, if Justin Fields, as long as he has that arm and that athleticism, there's a place for him in the NFL. And I think one of the reasons why it's easy to root for Fields is we watched
Good
the
attitude too.
almost. He had that one bad moment, but what he said was the truth. I do all these things well, and yet we're not doing any of them in the play calling. And why is that? And everyone's like, well, you shouldn't have called out your coaches, but you do make an excellent point.
Right.
I feel like just there's a world in which a better way of putting it, it's easy to wrap your arms around him and root for him because of what he went through. And that means something. If you can get through, adversity will make you a better person. It's not fair, but it will.
49ers, Leonard Floyd, defensive end.
Yeah, I like it. He's been up or down. He's usually had his best seasons when he's surrounded by really good talent. That's kind of how it was for him with the Rams. He's going to be cheaper than Young and more productive than Young. And so he's going to make an impact if through no other reason than he's pretty gifted. He's pretty good, but he's going to be in a great situation. Impact.
Seahawks, Sam Howell, quarterback.
No impact. I like Sam Howell, and I thought he got a rough deal in Washington, but he's a spot starter. He's got a better arm than people gave him credit for, but no impact. It would be great if he took
numbered for Smith.
I think this is his last year as a starter. I could see them drafting a quarterback in round 1 if someone falls, especially if somebody falls like if Bo Nix falls to round 2. And I do believe Bo Nix is a first-round talent. I don't know if I take him the first round, but I think he's got enough talent to be a first-rounder. I could see them trading up, late or in the first, early second to get a guy, have Geno mentor him, have him play behind Geno. But it was a shock that I'll put it to this. The reason why I think Geno he's last year there is a shock that they renewed his option or kept, didn't cut him. So what it is. I'm always root for Geno too, though. I'll root for Sam Howell. Easy guy to root for.
The Bucks, we talked about this. Baker Mayfield re-signs. Does he repeat what he did?
No, but he doesn't have to. He was really good last year. I'm going to say impact. He's still a little reckless with the football, but that's also some of the reasons why he's productive. He is somewhere between the 13th and 18th best quarterback in the league, depending on how you slice it. So,
I think that's how I ranked him when we were doing the rankings.
Right. I mean, it was just, I even said it when he was in Cleveland. He's going to be a little bit better than what his surroundings are. He's going to be about as good as what his surroundings are. I think he's a more attractive player now because he's got more reps, and 2, he's had to go through some things. His teammates respect him. His locker room, respects him. His coaches respect him. He's a pretty good quarterback. Not everybody can have. There's not 32 All-Pros. And I'm rooting for Baker, and I like Baker. I'd much rather have Baker than Deshaun Watson. So get fucked, Cleveland. Fucking bums. Fucking bums.
The Titans, who are kind of still in disarray and find themselves like the Broncos, the only player I could really find it, even though I think he might have already been there, I don't know, but Kenneth Murray, the linebacker.
Didn't they get Calvin Ridley as well?
Yeah, but I thought they got Calvin last year, didn't they? Or was
no, that was Jacksonville. Else? He was in Jacksonville.
He was. They got Ridley. Yeah. So
overpaid.
That's my fault. I would have chosen Ridley as the more impact.
No,
player.
I feel you. Ridley, no impact. Murray, no impact. Ridley is above average, but he's really inconsistent. I don't know why they paid him that money. It was sad. They could have just given that money to AJ Brown. Whatever. That's the Titan thing to do. Murray is a solid player, but impact is a high standard. And so it's no disrespect to Murray. But no and no.
Last one, Commanders. They're going to be going for a quarterback for sure, but is Austin Eckler going to be a difference maker for them?
No. He was a pretty good running back with great stats due to the situation that he was in. That's not a slight. He made the most of it. A big part of it is he's also going to Washington. That's not typically a place where you go to find success.
Right. It's where players go to die now.
New ownership, so I can't say that with my whole chest, but I have to call it like I see it. Probably not.
Yeah.
Rooting for him though. I am rooting for him.
All right. Well, we're going to get into our draft for our mocks. I think what we'll do is we'll do our first, by round, but then we'll also do
Sure.
the opposing team on our mocks who did the first round, second round, so on. So, do you want me to go first? Or do you want to go first?
I do. Real quick. Message in the chat.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
viewers. This is top secret stuff. It would blow your mind.
So we'll just a little 2-minute technical pause.
2-minute technical pause.
All right. After a little pause there, now we're going to get into our mock drafts here.
Yeah.
So who's going first? You or me?
Why don't you go first?
Okay. So what I did was I only made one trade in this draft that I did the mock draft. So I traded back from 12 and I traded with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll go with number 12 because that was our first pick at number 12, and that was going to the Steelers. And they took guard Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon.
We've been linked to him.
Like it, hate it. Of course, that's AI choosing, not me, but them.
I wouldn't hate it. I would want to see. I would want to know what corners, what tackles, and what wide receivers are available. There's a ton of tackles, and we've been looking to get our Broderick Jones, our first round pick last year. Oh no, I can hold you and talk football at the same damn time. We're looking to get Broderick Jones back to the fucking left tackle as God intended, okay? And so we need a right tackle. We let one go at the end of last season, or heading into this past season, rather, who was horrible for us, and then he had one of the best seasons in football last year. So that kind of fucking sucked for us, right? So I want to tackle, especially since it's easier to play right tackle than left tackle. With that said, we also could use a second corner, and since we traded Deontay Johnson, we could also use another wideout. But Jackson is a potential game-changing guard, or at least as much as a guard can change the game, and he's really, really talented. And he's probably a top 10 player overall if you disregard in this draft. If you disregard positional impact, so I would take it. Wouldn't love it, wouldn't hate it, but it would be a strong, solid choice.
Okay, for us, we had the number 20 pick. We also got the number 19 pick in the second round. I think we gave the Steelers a third or something, a future third or something. So with that 20th pick, I went on a limb. I said, you know what? I'm feeling frisky. So we took Bo Nix out of Oregon.
Makes sense. I don't mind that at all. I think we're going to have some similar looking things going on when I look at mine. So I did 3. Do you want me to go through all 3? Because I drafted
just the one you like the most.
Okay, I'll pick. There's one that I liked for both of our teams. So the one that I liked the most for the Steelers, we drafted Fatino. He fills the need at right tackle and lets us get Jones to left tackle. And then we took Devontae Walker, and the defensive lineman from Oregon, Dorless and Mahogany at center, and then Jaden Hicks at center. So Mahogany or Hicks would probably be a guard. Then that draft, you took Jamari Thrash in the third at wide receiver, Corum, a running back in the second, but you got Penix Jr. And in that one, you got all. I didn't do it; the AI did it, but you traded back. So Penix at the end of round 1 for Denver is a pretty good value.
All right. So let's see. So who did Denver take? Did you say?
Penix Jr., I think you traded to the 27th or 28th.
Okay.
Yeah, 27th. You traded back. I can't remember. I didn't write down who. So you traded back for Penix Jr. And you got Blake Corum, the running back, in the second round, then Jamari Thrash in the third round. That's a wide receiver. And then I think you picked up trading back. I think you got my notes say a second for next year, and then had to be a fourth and a sixth this year. So you didn't trade back too far,
Right.
or you didn't get too much, but you got, I don't know, if you got Penix at 25 or 26, I think you'd be happy. I think he's a first round quarterback.
Most of the drafts that I saw, mocks had Penix going the
Second
first round.
round.
In fact, I think
Yeah.
strangely enough, here was the funny thing about for Denver, right? I considered McCarthy, but as I was reading along, it's interesting because they considered Jay McCarthy as being more of like a game manager type of quarterback. And so I think for Denver, we kind of need to find a guy that at least, even if he's not the ideal quarterback, at least he has some talent to kind of overstep if he needs to. I wouldn't have been opposed to the Penix either, really. But Bo Nix
Penix
seems to be
definitely has the best. He's got the best arm out of those three. So here's what makes McCarthy interesting. He's got a pretty good arm, and he's pretty good athletically, and he had a pretty good career. But you keep saying pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Where's the special?
right.
And they won a game where he threw the ball like 7 times or something crazy. And so it's hard to disregard the intangibles. It's hard to disregard the good tape. It's hard to disregard the good but not great talent, and it's hard to disregard some spotty play here or there, spotty production as well. So I do think I've warmed up on him. I do think he's a first round quarterback, but I think he's the guy who a lot of teams are chalking up as a smokescreen because they want somebody. Because now, remember when not everybody, when a lot of people really like Drake May, and now nobody likes Drake May. So which is it? Is Drake May all of a sudden not scrub, but not that great in the views of scouters who liked him 6 months ago? Or are they trying, or is it, as many people on the board would say, liar season? At the start of mock drafts, the start of the off season, I was consistently taking JJ McCarthy as a Steelers quarterback in the mock drafts. So his stock has risen. There was one mock draft. I just say this because it was funny. I didn't pick it. And my settings were 4 rounds, Steve Shoop for the team needs, fan speak, difficult, right? A difficult setting. So I was shocked that this happened. Joe Alt fell to us, which would never fucking happen. The best left tackle prospect fell to us, right? So weird stuff in the draft happens both in the regular draft and in the mock drafts or whatnot. I think McCarthy, I gotta be honest with you. If Denver took him, I'd kind of like it. Because he can do some of the stuff that I think Sean Payton wanted Russ to do, but Russ either couldn't or wouldn't.
Well, that's the thing, though. Do we want to be a conservative offense? Like, I just don't. I think we've had enough of that over the course of the last 10 years.
I'm leaning in now because this is a hard question. Do you think McCarthy could only do well in a conservative offense?
I think so. And the only reason why I say this is because looking at Michigan's defense and just how fucking great it was, we saw a lot of that against Alabama and stuff. If you take McCarthy, and even if he's not starting for Denver right away, which would never happen because we still got a lot of building to do, but let's just say he had a couple of years experience, but he was inserted last year in Russ's position. Do we think he would have done that much better than Russ at that point? I'm not sure. Because there's too many other things that aren't working.
Is that factoring in some grading on a curve because he's a rookie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I understand that. I will say this. This is the strongest argument that I've heard for McCarthy.
He's not dumb.
No, he's not dumb. So if he's athletic and he's got a pretty good arm and he's not dumb, and it's the easiest time to be a quarterback in NFL history. It's probably the best time to have ever taken a guy like him. And if you put him in the bootleg and you put him in the play action, if you give him some of that Brock Purdy treatment, although the weapons aren't going to be what they were, and are in San Francisco, can't he grow out of that? And I will say this, if you want a list of guys who started conservative, at least became what I would call big boy quarterbacks, some of these guys are Hall of Famers, some of them aren't. I'll give you a list of guys who don't even have whose arm is on par with McCarthy or arguably worse. Phillip Rivers, that was his big knock coming out of college, was he didn't have an arm. He's still a high draft pick. Matt Ryan, arm strength was one of the things that dinged him in the draft, even though he's a high pick. Ben Roethlisberger. Okay. Only one of those guys has any mobility. McCarthy's mobility is different than Big Ben's. If you want a guy who had a big arm and was a game manager and became somebody who was at least a decent quarterback, although he wasn't great, Joe Flacco comes to mind. So I think if J.J. McCarthy hits as a quarterback, it will be because he can be a big boy quarterback, not because he can be a high-end game manager. And so if Denver took him, I would feel pretty good about it because that would signal to me that they don't see that limitation on him. If the Commanders take him, young man, enjoy your money and God bless you. Because
situation definitely plays a factor.
Oh God, yeah, and I still don't like it. The way that you described McCarthy is actually how I kind of feel about Bo Nix. That I feel like, I feel like that might be the guy. But here's the other thing too. I think
does it change your mind at all that Dan Fouts really likes Bo Nix?
No, because I respect Dan Fouts. I respect a lot of these guys do excellent work as draft and talent evaluators, but they're still wrong more often than not because the draft is a crapshoot. But I'll be honest with you, if Denver took Bo Nix, especially if they got the trade back for him, I'd feel good about it because Sean Payton is there. I mean, we live in a world where, like, look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees has a fascinating career. He was the 32nd pick overall, but that was the year that the Niners lost a first round pick for creative accounting. So he was a 32nd pick overall, but he was technically a second round quarterback, right? So then he goes to San Diego. That's well documented, up and down, but they weren't very good. Then he gets a shoulder injury, slowly becomes a god, Hall of Fame quarterback in New Orleans. Drew Brees did not have a great arm. As a matter of fact, that's what saved his career because the Bengals, Mike Brown said, I would have drafted him if his arm was.
Do you think McCarthy's in that mold, though, from Brees? Like, I think Brees is still, well, I mean, they're about the same, but I don't know. I always kind of felt like Brees was playing more at a first-round talent than JJ. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but
what helps your point is that Drew Brees was slinging the fucking football in Purdue. But a lot of people said it was just a college offense, college stats. This is what I would tell you. It's kind of the Anthony Richardson thing. If you can kick it around and see how it going both ways, just be optimistic. You know what I mean? Because you never fucking know. That's the way that I look at it. But Penix at 26 and gaining some draft capital is probably, I would say, better than McCarthy at 11 or 12. I would give you that. I would give you that.
All right. Second round pick 19 that we got from the Steelers. Actually go at Michigan. We get defensive lineman Chris Jenkins.
That's a good pick. You would just draft your whole fucking defense.
Right. For the Steelers, they were to pick right after us at 20. They took cornerback Max Melton from Rutgers.
Pick makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
What about your second round picks?
We got Devontae Walker. Oh, I screwed this up being an idiot. I just threw all my picks at once. Here, I'll go to another one then. Frazier, center, kid out of West Virginia. We need a center. Okay. We haven't signed one. He's a good player. Some people have him as a late first. That's predicated on him being able to move the guard. I think he's a second round player, but makes sense.
And who did Denver draft? Or they didn't have a draft. They didn't get that.
No, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
mine they did, but yours didn't.
Yeah.
All right. Round 3. I have one pick in this round at 12. I took safety Cameron Kitchens out of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And the Steelers. Oh, wait. I actually made a mistake. The Steelers didn't have a second round. This is the third round. So, third round, they took Max Milton.
I'll give you the third round for Denver then, too, if you want.
Okay. Sure.
You took fucking McMillan, the wide receiver.
Okay.
Solid pick.
So you guys for the third round took Max Melton with your first pick at 20. Then at 34, you had a second pick, which you took safety Jaden Hicks out of Washington State.
Pick also makes sense. We're starting to see more, because I know you look at composite big boards like I do.
Mm-hmm.
That is, and for the viewers, if you don't know, a composite big board, it's actually really cool. What they do is they identify somewhere between 10 to 100, sometimes as many as 200 big boards from people who are respectable. Obviously, it's going to be all the like Kuiper, all those guys, all the guys from CBS, all those big boards, and then big boards from some really dedicated fan sites, fan speak, so on and so forth, and then they average out the typical like where guys are falling. So, for instance, this one's from NFL mock draft database.com. I'll give you the top 10. Caleb Williams at 1, May at 2, Harrison Jr. at 3, Jaden Daniels and Neighbors at 4 and 5, McCarthy at 6, Romeo Dunez at 7, Dallas Turner at 8, Alt at 9, Brock Bowers at 10. That's going to be fairly standard because that's the average of all these big boards. And so I brought that up because for Jaden, I've seen him mocked a million times to teams either reaching in the second round for a safety or a team like around that needs a safety around the area that the Steelers are in the second.
Right.
So we're seeing a more homogenized, to throw a stupid word around, draft at this point. Because at the start of mock draft season, I was seeing people go, first one round overall picks, Brock Bowers, because he's the best overall player in the draft. And I'm like, Brock Bowers is not going, with all due respect to that very talented gentleman. The Bears are not taking him number 1. No one is taking.
All right. In round 4, because we need linebacker help, so I went after Maris Liafu from Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And the Steelers, they also went at linebacker at 19 with Cedric Gray from North Carolina.
Interesting. I would like that pick. I really like him. I like Trotter Jr., Jeremiah Trotter's kid.
Yeah, Trotter Jr. I was looking at him a couple times.
Yeah. Y'all took Ray Davis, the running back out of Kentucky, in the 4th.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at running back a while there.
I still like Javonte, by the way. I
do too. I just, I think it's all about just staying healthy, really, at this point.
I thought that they were giving the ball to other running backs I consider lesser running backs.
Well, I think it was like a walk-on or a late round draft pick. He was doing great.
I know who you're talking about.
But he's not like an every down back, so it's kind of like you have to be careful with that. But
and
that's the only problem when you don't have like your Emmitt Smiths or your TDs. You don't have anybody you can just keep giving the chuck ball to. Like it's like you got to split it up, and then it's like.
And Walker looked like he was
the guy you want to be the primary back, but he can't stay healthy.
There were some times I watched Denver play where another running back it'd be short down a distance, and I was like, oh, they're going to give it to the running back.
Well, that was the problem too, because some of the play calling just doesn't make sense.
No, it didn't, and they were trying to spread them out and do. It's like just no. It's 3rd and 1. It's 3rd and 1. Remember when Drew Brees got older, and then you took the running back Alabama and you just gave it to him. Mark Ingram, you just said, go get me 7 freaking inches on the football
I got
field.
something to ask you real quick.
Yeah.
Cam Cameron, offensive coordinator. I think he was with the Ravens for a while, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So did you see the article
where they're saying that he was tanking a game so he could get that job?
Yeah, like that makes me wonder, because that was during the time that Schottenheimer was there, right?
If a head coach, if a coordinator did that, even let's say I'm going to make up some stuff to argue against myself just to prove the point. Let's say that it was a dirty secret that defensive coordinators did that. Coaches did that.
John Fox.
Yeah, fucking. That's you know how I feel about that man. That's a different random, different time.
Right.
I'm triggered and I'm mad at you for saying his name. You prick. If a coordinator did that, even if we know that some of them did that, and he got caught doing that, his career's over because you could not hire him. It's like one of those things. It's like we all do this, but you can't get caught. Like Game of Thrones, the Night's Watch. You all go down to town and bang the whores, but if you get caught, you hang. Type of deal. One, I don't fucking believe that. Here's an easier explanation. Cam Cameron was not a great offensive coordinator. Cam Cameron was a good offensive coordinator. Cam Cameron was a really bad head coach. Sometimes you have a good coordinator who calls a shit game. Look what happened to the Ravens. Like that's the easiest example. At the end of that game, when we do Poetic Carnage, we're looking at each other going, "What the fuck was that play call?" Calling rather. So, but I did see it, and I was like, LT, I love LT, and his fire runs hot, but I didn't see it, man. I don't think it was that. Now, if that did happen, LT, go beat up that man. I don't care that he's old. if he wasted a year of your playoff prime, go beat that man's ass. Maybe he has a grandson or something you could fight.
Fifth round, I had 3 picks. Steelers did not have any, so I'll just do my picks that I chose. The first one I took was at number 1 was guard Tanner Bortolini from Wisconsin. At number 10, I went homerism here. I took wide receiver Malik Washington from Virginia. Speedster.
I've seen him mocked there, though. I've seen him mocked there.
Yeah, I didn't reach from it all. So like it's kind of like, okay.
You think he's gonna be good, by the way? We talk about your boy.
I hope. The problem with the smaller receivers is can they take any kind of punishment, because they can be a good ally. Look at Tyreek Hill. He's not a very big dude, but he's super fast. And Malik has that kind of speed. But it's just a matter of staying healthy, man. Like that's really what it comes down to. But I figure late rounder, we lost Cortland, we lost Judy, we have Mims. We'll probably get
Wait, did y'all lose Cortland Sutton?
I think so. I think we let him go, or he got traded. I don't remember. I have to double check. I thought we let him go.
So real quick, for your guy, how tall is Washington again? Or your boy? Yeah. How tall is your boy?
Check there. He is 5'8", 194 pounds.
194?
Yeah.
So, because when I watched him play, he reminded me of Nate Washington, who's 6'1", a burner, but only weighed 185.
And Nate was pretty productive, but not in. How big is Lockett?
Oh, that was actually another guy who comes to mind. So Lockett he weighs 182 pounds. Come on, tell me how tall he is. Height.
I guess Sutton's still
5'10".
So I guess we're still
5'10". 5'10". So 5'10", 180. Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, he can have some success as long as they're not getting crunched.
Well, throw him to the sidelines or let him run the deep down the middle of the field, so where he can protect himself. I get scared. The type of wide receiver I get scared for is a guy like John Ross, who's small, electric, and fast. But runs some routes over the middle and runs them in a way where, so like Wes Welker and Amendola and guys like that, first off, those guys took plenty of hard shots over the middle of the field. I'm not trying to diminish what they did.
Yeah, Welker, he's another good example. Yeah.
Edelman. But because they played in the slot and they weren't running, a 4, like they weren't running at Bo Jackson speed, they could kind of protect themselves. Also, Tom Brady did a good job of protecting them. He got really mad in the Colts Steelers game when our safety got booted out and suspended because that hit on and it was a nasty hit and it was illegal and he should have been ejected. He shouldn't have been suspended. But that pass was a hospital ball, as he called it. And he said, like, you can't throw there's no hospital balls. You throw a hospital ball, your wide receiver is gonna let you know some things about yourself and what you can do. And
right.
I think your boy can play. I see him as a Nate Washington type of guy, a solid number 2, a really strong number 3, can stretch the field. Um, I I uh I think he could play. I watched a little bit of his tape, and I was like, I wonder if my Viking homie is gonna bring him up. So
Right.
but I don't. I think it's a pick that makes sense. If you took him around earlier, I'd be like, I'm also seeing
Yeah.
him go in the 5th or 6th round, and if you get him in
Yeah.
the 5th or 6th, that's a hell of a pick.
Yeah, yeah. And then the last pick that we have at number 12, I actually really love this pick. I was surprised he was there as running back Jalen Wright from Tennessee. This guy does a great blocking. I love his adversity and diversity in his play. Great runner, hard to tackle, but obviously they always give you the pros and cons. So they always got a little bit of cons that come with it. But for the round, that's kind of like a steal for me.
I'm always surprised, like when you go back and you look at a player's cons, how they're just like flat wrong. Like I read a player report for
Well, a lot of
Aaron
times it's
Donald.
like it's almost like they contradict themselves when they write these up because like they give you all these great things they can do, and then they turn around and say, "Yeah, but he can't really do the route." It's really
And
weird.
that's what I like the ones where they say struggles or needs to improve. If you're gonna
Right.
say somebody can't do it, it better be like he can't do this because he's an oversized linebacker. So of course, that type of thing, fine. But I read a report where I gotta find it. It was so funny. Somebody questioned Aaron Donald's strength. Not strong enough to play in the NFL. And I was like,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, well, you know what? Your take has aged horribly. It has aged like milk in the California sun. So, was there basis for that? Did we miss the combine? Did we not watch any tape?
You're right.
Were we drunk that day? Um,
Mhm.
I like that. My mock only went up to 4 rounds, so I'm a fucking
So did you
loser.
end up trading up in that one?
No, I only did 4 rounds in
Oh, I see. You
general.
just did 4 rounds.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah. So here, let me go over all the players that Denver took because I did 3 different mock
Okay.
drafts. Okay. So we'll do the first one. Penix Jr., that's the one you traded back. Blake Corum, the running back. Jamari Thrash. So it was an offensive centered draft, and I think that'd be a pretty good haul. I don't know if I buy Corum in the 2nd round yet. I don't know if I don't buy it. I buy Thrash in the 3rd or 4th.
That's the
Um,
Louisville guy, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Next one, Dallas Turner makes sense. Audric Estimine and McMillian at wide receiver. I thought that was pretty solid. And then the third one, you got Turner again, Corum again, and then a wide receiver named Baker, but I did not remember um, where he played. I did not write that down. But the AI seemed to be saying that your offense is ass and you need more talent on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but then it's like also, we lose these other players on defense, and now how's our defense going to be? Are we going to be able to recover, or because I don't know, it's really weird. Just defense looked like great last year at times, and then other times it looked like bad mojo. But that could be
Yeah.
because the offense was so stagnant that like it really put a lot of pressure on them too. So
It did, and then you also had that rash of injuries,
mhm.
and when Simmons got back, and I will tell you this: so many really excellent safeties got let go. But the owners were saying, and I don't believe it was the GMs. I believe what the owners said was, it's that. Remember last year we were talking about soft collusion with Lamar. Everybody knows what's in their best interest, so they don't have to collude like with the quarterback contracts. I think what the owners are saying is we're not paying any more fucking. We let the safety money get out of hand, and we're
Yeah.
dialing it back. I can't prove that. That's just my feeling because a whole bunch of all pros got let go, and I've never seen so many all pros at one position get let go mid contract. That was
How,
weird.
here's the other thing. What do you think about the new tackling rule? Like a lot of players seem to be upset with this.
So, okay, I'm going to give you an answer, and it's going to sound like a cop out,
Okay.
and I'm not trying to be a cop. I'm not trying to cop out. Um, if the NFL is telling the truth, and it would have only been flagged 28 or 32, basically, like I think it averaged out to not even once a week, or maybe once a week out of every game. If that's true, and I'm dubious of such a statement, if it's true, then it's a non-starter. If they're going to call it the way I think that they are, it's patently unfair to the
Yeah.
defense. I will also
Yeah.
go a step forward, regardless of whether they're telling the truth or not about how they want it officiated. At the start of the year, it's going to be a shit show because the refs have never had to officiate this before. So I'm gonna preemptively say, and even if it comes back and screws my Steelers, I'm gonna have some sympathy for the refs because one, I have a law degree. Okay, I for many years of my life and for a short time as a prosecutor, I read boring statutes. Okay, almost every day for my training and for my job. If you go through the NFL rule book, they are written exactly the way the statute is because it makes sense. You want it to. So, like, if you put up the United States annotated code and you wanted to look up a statute on the rules of the flag, how you can take care of a flag demonstrator or whatever, it's going to read similarly to the rule on what a catch is or whatever. Boring, pedantic, almost so obvious that it's in a way arcane and obscure language. And I read the rule and I was like, I think I know what they're getting at, but I don't like that I'm saying I think I know what I'm getting at. Some of it's up for interpretation as well. So what I'm saying is, if that's the case, and if this is a rule that's written poorly, or it's the type of rule that you can't write tightly, it's going to be a shit show, and hopefully it gets smoothed out. I hate the rule in a vacuum because if you're going to, even if the rule makes sense and it's a good rule, if you keep taking away what the defense can do, you're perverting the game. I felt at the late 90s.
It feels like they keep trying to go into the arena league type of offenses where it's just score, 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 and we don't really need that. Like,
no, we don't. It's okay that it's an offensive league. It's okay that first off that sells. Second off, quite frankly, if you're going to make it a safer game, it is going to favor the offense a little bit. If you go back and you watch football in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s and early 2000s, you're going to see a lot of shit defense where the safety made a great play because the wide receiver ran by the shitty corner. And the great play was the free safety jumped and put his helmet into the guy's head and gave him a concussion. That's not great defense. It's effective, but that's not great defense. So you flash forward to the Patriots grabbing Harrison and Wayne and throwing them to the ground, and the refs are too chicken shit to throw a flag because they're scared of Daddy Belichick. That's when we started seeing rules slowly turn towards wide receivers. Slowly. The quarterback injuries to Brady and Palmer really accelerated the protect the quarterback rules. Okay. I get that to an extent. And then meanwhile, if you're Cam Newton and you can't get a call, it just sucks because why would we throw a flag? You're big. He always had a valid complaint there. I feel the need to bring it up because it was just patently unfair. Be that as it may, I felt that there was a long period of time where the rules were too favor the defense too much, where you could have some guys who just weren't really good at football making big plays because they could just mug a guy. Now I'm seeing a lot of wide receivers who they got some scrubosity to them. The production that they have is not congruent with how good they're actually playing. And it's kind of the other way where it's like, did you really beat that corner? Or is that corner scared that he's the third corner and he's going to get cut if he gets flagged again? Like, I don't like it. There needs to be a happy medium. Why don't we go back to calling offensive holding and let the pass rushers rush the passer again? Why don't we, and here's a thought, and I know it's revolutionary, and I know it's crazy. Why don't we let the pass rushers hit the quarterbacks again? How about if it's not directly to the head or the knees, it's not a flag? You can keep the rule that you can't just I tackle you and then I put all my body weight and I land on you. That's always been bullshit. That's always trying to hurt a guy. But other than that, like nothing here, nothing at the knees. Don't grab their face mask and just let them get fucking hit. Like that might be an idea if they want to slide. The quarterback slide rule is offensive It feels wrong that you're the ball carrier and you get to be like, no, I don't want to get hit. But
Well,
that's
the
fine.
problem with that is what you see with Kenny Pickett in college. That game that he was in, that he faked he was
Josh
going to slide
Allen
and he kept running.
did it to us.
Yeah.
He did
Allen's
it
a
to
perfect
us.
example.
It was some
So
bullshit.
then you're just like you're hog tying your defense because they don't want to get the flag, but then they have to
No.
worry about that.
And they don't want the ejection either, because if you
Right.
if you guess wrong and you hit him and he actually is sliding, you're gone. And we've seen some dirty plays where the defender tried to argue they faked the slide and all that. That horrible hit that Bridgewater took his last year in Minnesota is a prime example of that. But you got to give them something. And whether maybe you don't need to change the rule, maybe you can just call holding more. Maybe you can dial back on what defensive, illegal contact is. Because I don't want them to change it. I feel like the pass interference stuff has actually gotten better over the years. Like 5 years ago, it was like there's a flag constantly. Now I am seeing, and I don't have any. It's just the eye test. I don't have any data, so I'm not conclusively saying it. But it feels like there are fewer and fewer bad pass interference calls. There's some really ticky-tacky defensive holding, illegal contact calls. You gotta give them something. I mean, one of my buddies made the joke, why don't you leave the rules exactly as is, but let the defenders play with 12 guys? And I'm kind of like, you know what? That would actually be really unfair, but like I kind of get it. You always get a blitzer, you know what I mean? No matter what, you always get a blitzer. That'd be something. So I don't like it. I feel like it really blew up when Mark Andrews got hurt. And I watched that play, and I'm obviously not a Bengals sympathizer, but I'm like, it feels like what you're saying is that linebacker, I think it was a linebacker, just had to let Mark Andrews run right by him and do absolutely nothing. Some bullshit, man. Some bullshit. Fuck that rule.
Right. Well, I had both the Broncos and the Steelers had 2 picks in the 6th round.
Hell yeah.
So the Broncos, for pick 27, I took edge rusher, defensive end Brennan Jackson from Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 31, I took tight end Dallin Holker from Colorado State.
I don't know anything about Holker.
Holker's actually pretty decent. I know a lot of more, Bronco fans out in Colorado know a lot about him because Colorado State, obviously. But a lot of guys on the forum were pretty happy with my selections here, so that's kind of good news that I actually had people not flaming me for my picks.
Well, sometimes I would post my box on my own Steelers thread, and it would upset people.
Well, yeah, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And then I just started posting them in yours, and you let it slide because you're kind of
right.
I like the mock draft. You know what? How about you want me to fire off a 3-rounder real quick on FanSpeed?
Hold on, let me give you the last 2 for the Steelers on the AI. Okay. So they had picked number 2 in the 6th round. The first one they took was defensive end Grayson Murphy from UCLA.
Okay, all right, that's not.
And horrible. Then pick 19, they took cornerback MJ Devonshire from Pittsburgh.
I don't know about that one.
It's a 6th round pick, so
yeah, there you go. I'll just say, all right, I'm drafting the Broncos. I'm on FanSpeak. I'm going to do a 3-rounder. I'm going to go with Steve Shoop. If I'm mispronouncing the gentleman's name, I apologize.
That's usually who I go with, I think. So
yeah, I'm going to go team needs by him because he's usually pretty good. Pick order, I'm going to put it on difficult. Speed, fast, because I don't even do trades anyway, and I always do random big board because no teams have the exact same big board.
Right.
So I'm gonna start round, no trade offer. Okay. At 12, Amirius Mims, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., Fuega from Oregon State, and Nate Wiggins are the most likely picks. If I look at available quarterbacks, you could take Penix Jr. He is at 25. And McCarthy's ranked at 30. So you have a bunch of offensive linemen, some really good defensive players, and 2 quarterbacks to pick. Who would you pick?
And you're at 12?
Yeah.
Who's the offensive lineman again?
Amirius Mims, the guy that Jade and I really like. Chizoe, I think, is not high on him. and then Talisi Fuega, I think is how you say the gentleman's name. I'll have everyone's name down pat by draft time from Oregon State.
Okay. I'll go with Mims. That's if we're not trading down, then I'll go with the Mims there.
Gotcha. That's who I would go with. When he's been on the field, he's been really, really good, and he's what Mekhi Becton should have been.
Fixing that O line's not a bad thing. So
no, it's not. All right, you didn't have a second round. No trade offers, so we're in the third round. Okay, now this is interesting. Blake Corum, the running back, is available. Audric Estim, the cat from Notre Dame. Malachi Corley, who I'm high on. Christian Hayes, the guard. Cade Stover, the tight end, and Zach Zinter, the center/guard. Are the top picks available.
So those are the best available right now. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Let me see the quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks are Pratt, Radler, Milton, and Jordan Travis.
Okay, we'll pass there. So go to running backs.
At running back, you have Corum and the cat from Notre Dame and Will Shipley.
Okay.
And Bucky Irving.
Safety.
Nothing but reaches.
Okay. Wide receiver.
Malachi Corley and reaches.
Okay.
Could also get Christian Haynes from UConn, who's highly ranked. He's a guard.
Okay.
I've not watched his film yet.
Oh, let's defensive line.
Ooh. Nothing but reaches. You're in the 60s and 70s, and these defensive linemen start in the 90s.
All right, go back to the best available.
Corum, the running back, another tackle from Yale, Esteem from Notre Dame, the running back, Corley, the wideout, Haynes, the guard, Shipley, the running back, Cade Stover, the tight end, Zach Zinter, the guard/center. That's a lot of guys.
All right, let's just go with the tackle.
So 2 tackles. I like it. So in this timeline, you're done with the Bulls, right? You're cutting them.
Oh yeah, that or he's just deaf.
Gotcha.
He has veteran play, but
gotcha. Okay, so that took us through. That was a third rounder. Do you care if I run the Steelers real quick?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Redraft now. I'll do 3 rounds for the Steelers. I should have done 4 for y'all since you don't have the. I feel like a dick. I'm sorry. All right. Let's see any trade that actually makes sense. Oh my God. So tell me, this is a horrible trade. The Vikings want to give us the 11th pick. They want our first, our second, and our third to move up 9 spots.
Damn.
No, hell no.
I mean, I understand why they want it, but no.
Yeah. You know what? I want Scarlett Johansson to marry me, and that's most likely not happening. Quinion Mitchell, Nate Wiggins, Troy Fortuna, Jackson Powers, Michael Penix, and Keon Coleman are the most likely people. However, J.J. McCarthy is on the board. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be there when we pick. I think if these guys are all available, I think we take Troy Fortuna. We could put him at right tackle. Some folks are saying he, as well as Fuega, or Fuega. I'll get their names done by draft. Should go to guard. I am always dubious, by the way, just as general. Okay, if somebody says this left tackle should slide to right tackle, I usually get that. But if you're a prolific first round caliber player and you played tackle and people want to put you at guard, it's usually because they're scared to say that they don't think that you're a first rounder. Sometimes you just go to a team that's loaded at offensive line. They're just going to do best player available. So I'll give you an example of from tackle to tackle. Tristan Wirfs. I screamed from the mountaintops. He was the best tackle in that draft class. He had played right tackle and left tackle in college. Gets drafted by Tampa the Super Bowl year with Brady. Okay. Plays right tackle. He's one of the best right tackles immediately. Last year goes to left tackle. He might already be the best left tackle in football. So that's one example. Andre Smith from the Bengals was a stud left tackle in Alabama. It's not quite quick enough. Really big guy. Was really good and then awful because he let himself go. Right tackle for the Bengals. So when people told me Rashawn Slater, that absolute stud that plays with Herbert, should be moved to guard, I was like, I don't believe you because there's no basis for it other than you're just scared to tell me that you don't think that he's a top 10 pick. So you're saying, oh, he's a stud, but he should go play there. I don't know. I'm going to watch more tape. I don't know if I think any of these tackles, these first-round tackles, the big ones, should be moved to guard. I think some of them might be better at right tackle, at least for a little bit. I think some of them could move to guard if that's a better fit for the team. Obviously, injuries happen, and that can shake up an offensive line. I'm taking Troy. Troy, you and Jones are going to dominate the AFC for the next 10 years. Welcome to the league. All right, our next pick is a really easy one. Ennis Rackestroff from Missouri, Cameron Kinchins, the safety, TJ Tampa from Iowa, Devontae Walker from UNC, and Zach Frazier, the center / guard from West Virginia. I think we would take Frazier because we don't have any centers on the roster, basically. So we go to the third and the final round. And holy shit, they're just throwing offensive linemen at me. However, we also need a corner, so we're taking Abrams Drain from Missouri without getting in. He'd be the obvious pick. Next pick, we take Kalen Bullock, the safety from USC, because we need a safety. All those guys that we just went through, that's more or less where they fall on the composite boards. So last year, I know we both had our composite boards up during the draft. I imagine we'll do so again. Probably post the link during draft day. And I think we're probably nearing the end of the episode. So do you want to tell the viewers anything about what we're planning for the draft for the second annual?
I will, but real quickly, I think I'm going to do my own speed round for the Steelers.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I'm going to do a 7-rounder. Right off the bat, you have 2 trade-up proposals. So the Saints are willing to give their 14th pick in the first round for your 20 in the first and your 19 in the second.
Absolutely not.
Okay, the Cardinals are willing to give you round 2 pick 3 and round 1 pick 27 for the 20th.
I'm going to say no. That one, I don't know. Okay. Don't know if I could say no on draft day, but I'm going to say no now.
Yeah, you're probably not looking to trade back any further than you are. So
probably not.
All right, let's get rolling and see where we end up. Oh shit! Oh fuck! More proposals. So the Rams are going to give you round 2 pick 20, round 3 pick 19, round 3 pick 35, round 5 pick 19, and the Cowboys are offering round 2 pick 24, round 3 pick 23, round 5 pick 39, and round 6 pick 40.
Who's available? I'm curious what if there's a big player who slid. Yeah.
Okay, so the top 5 are edge rusher Dallas Turner from Bama, offensive tackle Mims from Georgia. Mims from Georgia is there. Fuaga, another tackle from Oregon State. There's the Powers Johnson kid from Oregon, and then edge rusher Chop Robinson from Penn State.
Okay, so a lot of studs fell is what you're telling me. So I'll be honest. The pass rushers who I would probably – so if it's best player available, we take the pass rusher, but we have Hightower under contract, and he's pretty good. So I think that you do adjusted best player available, and you take Mims. So I would say no to those trades.
You're going Mims.
I'm taking Mims.
Okay, so let's go. We'll find Mims, and that's who we're taking. All right, so let's move on to round 2.
Do you agree with that? Would you take Mims?
I totally, especially if you're that high on him, like that's definitely where you go. If he drops that low, that's a steal. I mean, I know they're offering you the moon, but they probably are looking at the same guy.
Yeah, they're offering the moon for a reason because anything less than the moon, they'll get click.
All right, let's see. You guys do have the 19th pick. All right. So the best available here is Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker from A&M. Tyler
Oh,
Newbin from
linebacker.
Minnesota, safety. And then defensive lineman Tavonde Sweat from Texas.
Oh, we're taking Sweat. We need to
Okay.
replace. We need to replace Cameron Hayward soon.
Gotcha.
And his contract is an albatross, so it's Sweat.
Okay, starting around 3. All right. Best available. Oh, dude. That's a steal if you can get it. Running back Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Safety Javon Bullard from Georgia. Running back Trey Benson from Florida State. These are all like running backs now. There's like literally 6 of them right in a row for best available. So the only difference here is really the top 2 is Jonathan Brooks, running back, and then safety Javon Bullard, unless
Oh boy,
you kind of want to reach for Pearsall from Florida, the wide receiver.
I do because I like him, but I can't take him. So here's a problem: we have Jalen Warren and Najee, but I don't know if we're going to pick up. Here's the thing: the safety is pretty good, and I think that we might take him. I would take Jonathan Brooks and just tell Najee.
Kind of put some pressure on him a little bit to perform.
Yeah, and Jalen Warren,
I mean, it's good because he's a rookie and it's a good steal here, and plus, depth. So I mean,
paying running backs is I don't like that this is how the NFL is, but paying running backs is a sucker's game,
right?
I think Brooks is going to be a second rounder.
Yeah. Next pick, which is 34, got 2 trade proposals. So the Bills are coming in with round 5, pick 9, round 4, pick 28, and round 6, pick 20. And then the Saints are going to give you 3 fifth rounders, 15, 33, and 35, and then a round 6, pick 14. Now, if you want to see, available players. Bullard, the Georgia safety, still there. Let's see, Marshawn Lloyd, running back. Bucky, running back. Then we have wide receiver Roman Wilson out of Michigan. Safety.
It's what? Roman Wilson. I was hoping it'd be a player that I was hoping there wouldn't be anyone that wouldn't let me take that safety because we need a safety. But Roman Wilson,
that's the guy you want. Okay.
Yeah.
So Roman Wilson. Bye-bye. So now we're going to move on to number 4.
Those trades seemed acceptable too.
They were depending on what you're looking for. That's really what it comes down to.
It is. My issue with the AI trades is usually
it's not always realistic.
yeah. Sometimes like they're like, I'll give you this, and you're like, oh, that's disrespectful to me. The other times it's like they'd give me the sun and the moon for no reason.
Right. Okay, so the best available here, the top 5, you have linebacker Cedric Gray, linebacker Junior Colson from Michigan. He's a beast.
Yeah.
Wide receiver Johnny Wilson from FSU, and then 2 safeties, and Bo Braid from Maryland and Cole Bishop from Utah. And there's also the 6th one is linebacker Marist from Notre Dame, which I
give me the Utah safety.
Okay.
Give me the Utah safety. That was fortunate that those 2 were there. Sometimes you just get lucky.
Yeah.
Also the other thing is I really like Roman Wilson. I think he's a second round wide receiver.
Oh, you think he's higher than what he's given there?
Yeah, I do.
All right, 6th round. So this is the last round because it's the only one you have left. You're on the clock. So best available, we have linebacker Tatum Bethune from Florida State, running back Mayan Williams from Ohio State, defensive lineman Dwayne Carter from Duke, cornerback Miles Jones from Duke, and then edge Miles Cole from Texas Tech. Also available just a couple picks later is Jalen Wright from Tennessee, the running back, who I took. But you already took Brooks, so it doesn't really matter at that point.
Who are the last 2 players other than Jalen Wright?
Okay, so the 6 are linebacker Tatum Bethune, running back Mayan Williams, defensive lineman Dwayne Carter, cornerback Miles Jones, edge Miles Cole from Texas Tech, and then they have offensive tackle Zion Nelson from Miami.
Give me the corner.
Jalen Wright.
I think give me the corner. Yeah, it was close between him and the edge.
Okay. And then your last pick coming up, top 5, you have linebackers Trevin Walsh from Kentucky and linebacker Dallas Gant from Toledo, center Kingsley Aguijohn from Florida, safety Akeem Dent from Florida State, and defensive line Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa. Now, do you want me to try to look around at different positions?
No,
in case
I think we take the safety at that point, or the center.
Okay.
The center. I'm sorry.
The center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll let this play out. Cats must be getting hungry. I can hear them. All right. So your final draft here was offensive tackle Amaris Mims, defensive lineman Tavonde Sweat. I think he's really good, actually, at Texas.
Yeah.
Running back Jonathan Brooks, Texas. He's definitely a good running back. I see him going higher usually. Wide receiver Roman Wilson from Michigan. Your safety Cole Bishop from Utah. Corner Miles Jones from Duke, and then center Kingsley Aguijohn from Florida.
I like the draft. By the way, hot take. I think maybe it's not a hot take. I think Brooks could go at the end of round 1.
Yeah, I'm
do.
kind of surprised, but this is the problem with AI too. Is like they don't always give them accurate, but the draft's always kind of like that. We went in last year thinking some players were going to go lower than they actually did.
What Detroit did is still,
but it worked out for them pretty good.
It did. Well, I want to
to a degree anyway.
Yeah, the running back thing worked out. I maintain what I maintain. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think that middle linebacker that they took is going to age well. I don't even think he played all that great. I'd have to double check.
I think he was okay. I don't think he was
probably
but...
it's a hard position, so he could be. I'm rooting for him too. I'm rooting for the Lions. I think everyone is. I didn't like what Buffalo did, and I know that Kincaid's a really good tight end, but there's a wide receiver available. I remember saying take the wide out because they would be in a much better situation if they took the wide out and not the luxury tight end. Luxury tight ends cost you down the line. The amount of times I've seen a team, it's a different situation, but they get the young quarterback and they draft it's like we have 2 first-round picks. We'll take the quarterback and then the security blanket tight end, and it never works. Whether it's Brandon Pettigrew, that was shit. I can't remember if the Bengals took Jermaine Gresham and Dalton in the same draft class, but I'm just saying I need some real unadulterated god tier talent before I'm taking a round 1 tight end.
Yeah. Well, for those watching this, Mr. Poe and I will be doing a live draft night as well on the first night, like we did last year. Kind of went through the technical issues last time. We're gonna have more breaks this time around because it was like a long night. So we'll be working those in, but we're also going to figure out how we're going to keep ourselves from cheating and going to Twitter in case there's any kind of delay. Hopefully, with the way that we're going to go about it, there won't be any issues with like the stream delay, even though you usually get like a little bit of one. But we're going to try to keep that on point, and we invite you all to join us and have some. It's going to be.
We got a pretty good. Yeah, we had a pretty good turnout last year, and it was a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people enjoyed it too. So we look forward to it. And quite frankly, we're going to get better at it as we go. And we'll be doing more. We might do another episode about draft rumors and stuff like that between then and now. I don't know. It's going to depend on I got the sick dog. I know you got a lot going on as well. Yeah. So we reserve the right to do another episode or do Jack Diddley fuck all.
We do what we want to do.
Yeah, we do what we want to do. And if you don't like it, then I respect your opinion, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's our show. We do it.
Yeah.
All right, all. Thanks for the support as always. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, and we'll see you next time here on Poetic Carnage, man. Take care of yourselves.
Mm-hmm.